You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast.
No, I don't care if a man walked on the moon, if it's hoax or if it's truth. No, I don't care if Apollo really flew or just staged a photo shoot. No.
In 1969, the United States of America launched Apollo 11. This was the first manned space shuttle to land on the surface of the moon.
No, I don't care. No, I don't wanna fight. Not with you tonight. I don't care about anything like you.
So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
This is episode 312, season 8, the Ocho of the CreepGeeks Podcast.
Stonehenge Vandalized, 6 Shrooms, several more space trash landings, Thrift shop Mayan artifacts, ghosts of Alcatraz, free to fortune tell, more monoliths, and ghost ambulance.
Yeah, it's very nice.
And the government's hiding it. No, I don't care.
All right, anyway, so it begins again. Welcome back to the podcast. We're glad you're here. If it's your first time listening to the podcast, we're also glad you're here. We got a lot of stuff we'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
So as we broadcast paranormal news and share our strange experiences from our underground bunker in the mountains of western North Carolina, I don't really have anything I was going to go with that. It's just like this. I was going to lead into a segue
Yeah.
or a segue, but I don't really have one. Other than a couple different ways you can listen to us on the podcast. We have all sorts of social media outlets for you to interact with us. All the popular ones. Yeah, well, I mean, we do. Anywhere you can basically hear a podcast, you can listen to us. YouTube, you can just listen to the podcast if you want because it's hashtag listenable.
Social media, you can interact with us on everything pretty much.
Twitter or X.
TikTok,
TikToks.
Facebook groups.
Facebook groups.
We even have a thread sitting out there someplace.
Threads, it's trash.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of places you can. We also have a website. It's called CreepGeeks.com. And there's a contact us link where you can leave a message, if you will. Playing this song because somebody asked for it 2 podcast episodes ago, and I said I would throw it in the show notes where you can find everything we talk about on our podcast, which I did not do. So let me go ahead and do that now. So if you were listening to the podcast and you're like, hey, you're grumbling about it, the name of the song, as I scroll to the very bottom where I put our license number and all that stuff so that maybe YouTube won't go, hey, man, you guys can't play that song because they try that. Mm-hmm. Lucky for them, we're not monetized. But if you'd like to subscribe to us on YouTube, if you search CreepGeeks, you'll find us. We appreciate it. Yeah. The artist name is The Runaway Club. Song name is called I Don't Care. It's pretty, I'm not going to give you the license number because we paid for it. How about that? All right, so anyway, moving into the podcast, let's talk a little bit about some news. But before that, I got some news because got a hold of Ike.
Yeah.
Or Ike got a hold of me, or vice versa. Ike's listener of the podcast. He had some health difficulties that he overcome. Mm-hmm. Dude's a beast, man.
Good.
And he's going back to the place that tried to lay him low. He's going to show it who's boss. I'm not going to say too much because I don't know how much Ike wants to say, if he wants to say anything at all. But anyway, glad you're hanging around, Ike. He's a tough guy. And we've seen him multiple times in multiple places, and I thought the dude was way younger than he actually is.
Oh.
So that's a compliment. It's probably a backhanded compliment, but it's still a compliment just the same. Seriously. He told me, I'm like, what? I thought you were like 10 years older than me, so I don't know what that says about me.
Oh.
All right, anyway, glad you're hanging out. So here's the deal. Our last podcast, we talked about space junk.
Yeah.
And there's been an update for that. Some space junk has decided to hit a campground, more of a glamping campground or glampground.
Yeah. And I think in that episode I theorized, where else is it falling, and like, is it falling in groups in specific areas or, how much space junk are we not aware of falling in really remote areas?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We do have an accolade.
Oh.
According to the internet and the Good Pod's website, we have been ranked again. CreepGeeks Paranormal and Weird News Podcast has made the following top listener chart on Good Pods. put a link in there, and if you click on the link, it takes you to the Best Bigfoot Podcast 2024 top 23 shows.
Oh.
So I didn't click on the link, so it's entirely possible we're not even up there anymore. But we were ranked number 8.
Oh, okay.
The Ocho.
The Ocho.
Yeah. All right, so we're still there. Cool, we're number 8. There you go. Yeah. So for what that's worth.
I don't know. I think it's good.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
And it also has a whole other bunch of things that says where we're ranked for whatever reason. Number 14 in the top 100 Bigfoot all-time chart. Number 35 in the top 100 indie paranormal all-time chart. Number 62 in the top 100 indie philosophy all-time chart. Number 97 in the top 100 paranormal all-time chart.
Oh.
Gives us plenty of room to grow, and we're not the last.
You know, I tried to search their site manually.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
It's hard. But Good Pods is a place where you can actually subscribe and listen to podcasts. So if you don't want to use iTunes, or they can't really use Google anymore because that's going away, the Google Podcast feature for Google in general is going away, and it's going to be picked up by YouTube. So YouTube will be doing all the podcast heavy lifting, just in case you were curious. So there you go. So we're number 14, 35, 62, 97, and number 8.
Yeah.
All those are good numbers. Those are good lottery numbers. And I should know because I don't ever play a lottery. But anyway, very nice. So yeah, in Macon County, a man found more debris from SpaceX.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think this is not far from where the glamping stuff was found.
No, not too far in the grand scheme of things.
Well, the only thing I really wanted to point
20,
out...
50 miles, something like that. Not far, really, but...
The only thing I wanted to point out about this one was, I guess not shortly after, well, when the news was coming about, he called his son-in-law. And his son-in-law was, hey, guess what? Some dude found something almost like that in Haywood County.
Yeah.
So they ended up comparing notes. The local news reached out to both of them, and it is indeed matching pieces of, I guess, this dragon stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
At least he's wearing gloves.
Yeah.
This guy. So.
Yeah. But it just goes to show you, these are they're relatively, I wouldn't say remote, but they are definitely rural counties.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder how much more falls from space junk and space debris that we never see.
I mean, you'd never know until somebody says something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, you might see something in the sky and not know what it is until somebody picks up and goes, what is this?
Pretty much.
And it's obviously man-made, of course, and it's like carbon fiber and bolts and nuts and stuff like that. So I think this is coming off the Dragon's trunk.
Yeah.
During its re-entry path. Or it comes in hot at 17,000 miles per hour. So it wouldn't take a whole lot to kill you dead or poke a hole in the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Wooten is the guy who found it. It's his first. It slammed into his roof, and then it landed in his front yard.
Wow.
It hit on that post right over there. It
Yeah.
just bounced off. So that's kind of nice. At least, yeah. And so it happened around the same time as the other one. So yeah, it wasn't like it just showed up.
Yeah.
A couple days later. I'd be more scary. I'd rather one and done for something like that than just like 3 days later another chunk falls and hits your property or hits real close because it's like, got more coming.
And I mean, there's apps now where you can like track certain things in the sky. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these apps got clever and started like specifically tracking space junk.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that it depends on what the app is using to actually track the debris. That's a pretty small chunk.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, tracking like something, a satellite the size of a little Volkswagen Bug or something is a whole lot easier than tracking something that's maybe the size of a shoebox.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm glad that's not too far from us. I mean,
No,
really,
it's
if you
not.
think about it, it's all of this is about 50 miles away if you draw a circle.
Yeah.
I mean, from space.
Okay.
And 17,000 miles. We're on the dartboard
So
to get blasted
yeah.
with some of this stuff.
Around the same time as this, like, my sister-in-law did point out that she was seeing a lot of stuff in the sky. like specifically over the county we live in. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a piece of space trash found someplace around here.
Sure.
You
I mean, we blame stuff all the time on Starlink. When people see any kind of lights in the sky that have some sort of pattern to them, right? Starlink.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah.
You know, but people are like, I've seen 17 lights in the sky all at the same time in a line. What is it? It's Starlink, man. What else would it be?
So there's a new UFO app.
Starlink train.
And I've been trying to keep my eye on it. I don't want to say which one it is yet, but it's a relatively new UFO UAP app. And
what's it called?
I'm not going to give the name yet. I'm giving it another month before we talk about it.
I was going to trick you.
But it's pretty... I'm keeping an eye because there is at least a third of everything in our area is Starlink.
Well, I mean, a third of most areas would be Starlink.
Like the reported sightings. So, yeah.
Yeah. And there's people out there who just flat out deny it. Like that guy in New Mexico. When he's seen it, and they're like, yeah, that's Starlink. He's like, no, it's not. And that was it. He was good with it. It's like, nope.
Yeah.
I've said what I've said, and that's it. Get off my land kind of a thing. So, all right. So we had a little bit of a thrift store conversation. We went to a thrift shop. What do they call them in England? Charity shops?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I have a name for them. It sounds weird. But so we went out there, and we were looking for different things. Just whatever. I was looking for, pocket knives or something. I didn't realize I was interested in knives and pocket knives until I just thought everybody was. I thought everybody had like 3 or 4 knives, maybe 5. Well, I mean, when I grew up, it was kind of a rite of passage. You got to be a certain age, whether it was like you did Boy Scouts or whatever, or your dad or grandpa said, well, you're old enough, here's a knife.
Yeah.
But evidently that's not the case. But so anyway, we were there and we were making a joke, or I was making a joke with you. Everything you showed me, I was like, yep, that's definitely haunted. Yep, that's haunted.
Yeah. And there was some creepy stuff in there.
Yeah, there is. And there's some. Okay, so the second time we've been there, and there was one section of the thrift store. We're not going to say we're not going to say the name of the store or anything like that, but where I kept trying to move out of somebody's way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel like somebody's like trying to get past you, so like you try to get out of their way because I was in a little spot. Everything's so tightly jammed with stuff that I just knew, if I turn around too quick, I'm gonna start knocking stuff over. Right?
Expensive stuff.
Yeah. Well, stuff that's not really expensive or shouldn't be labeled as being expensive, but you're in a thrift shop. It's like a boutique, so you're just going to be caught. Yeah, it's way more than regular thrift shop. Yeah. And there's nothing there. And I'm like, all right, I felt this before. But anyway, so kept joking around saying it's definitely haunted.
Yeah.
And just joking around with the shopkeeper, who I need to apologize to if you ever listen to this podcast. I did not realize you closed at 4. So, and it's like 4:20 and we're still hanging around and you're like trying to make me hurry up all of a sudden. And I'm like, all right, I didn't get it that they closed at 4.
She was on the phone and she was having a conversation. That's when I realized, oh wait, this place closes at 4.
Yeah. Well, I don't normally eavesdrop people's phone conversations. So.
I didn't mean to either, but it was just like, so.
It's us. Oh.
Yeah.
I think I even went and used the bathroom. I did all sorts of things to drag it out. So just saying, the next time we go back, we're going to give her a sticker, which she's not going to care about, and say, hey, look, I didn't realize that you closed at 4.
Yeah.
And your candy was stale. Well, gotta say it. Anyway. And so, I made a joke, and I was like, well, I can't buy that. That's haunted. And she's like, no, we sage every weekend. She listed her routine of what she does.
Yeah.
Even to the point where a local Catholic, she told me 5 times, I'm not Catholic, but the local Catholic priest, Reverend Father guy, whatever, brings her holy water.
Yeah.
Which is nice because you're supposed to pay for that with the Catholic Church. So he brings her enough holy water to take care of things.
And you can tell it is probably used in the main part of the store. But
because it feels great.
Yeah.
In the main part, like, gonna buy some overpriced stuff. It's gonna be wonderful. But you get to the back, and you're like, I don't like this. I gotta go.
Yeah,
this is creepy. Right?
The one room that just makes me not feel good is that very back room with all the war antiques.
Oh, the back left corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's got a different vibe. It's more of a veteran.
But there's something else there.
Vibe. Yeah, but it's not. Yeah. It's not as creepy as the front right. As you step in, where some of the tools are, like to the front right. That's where I get the weirdness.
But the front
where
right,
somebody is just always standing there, and I'm always in their frickin' way.
whatever's in the front right, though, runs away. And it does.
Not from me. It wants to stand there and breathe on me. I don't like it. But the veteran side, I can deal with it. I get it. It's a veteran. The vibe I get in there is actually a veteran vibe, like a service member.
It did not feel as bad this time, but the other times we've been there, I think
we only went one other time. But,
no, I think we've been there twice.
Maybe.
I
the
think
first time we were
whatever-
there in that corner, it made me sweat.
I think whatever was there finally got sold, so I think it's less, or at
Less
least
sketchy.
one of the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's why I feel less.
Yeah, there were some things in there that had some history to them. And the funny thing is that a lot of the medals and stuff, and even with some of the Russian memorabilia stuff he had, we were there at the same time.
Yeah,
So I remember seeing that and being a part of that when I was in the Navy. So yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, I want to apologize. But she had a whole routine, sages things, uses holy water, lets things sit outside, for the sun. Just she had a routine, man. And she said, and I said, so do you believe in that kind of thing? She's like, well, I don't know how much I believe in it, but you definitely have to be proactive or stuff will happen. And I agree. I said, how many, she basically mentioned she knows people that have these stores too, and that they just don't do stuff like this, and they have problems. And she's like, and I don't want problems. And I'm like, wow. Usually people are like, no, everything's fine. We don't do anything like that. Like we'd think they're crazy or something. But so yeah, she was on top of it. Sages, holy water, all that good stuff for the objects, to keep the objects clear, pure, or whatever. So speaking of a thrift store vase that turns out to be an ancient Mayan artifact,
This really
$3.99. That's what they paid for it.
this threw me for a loop, because if you watch the video, it really does look like, oh, this was somebody's like plant planter, like little flower
Well, it looks
pot.
like you're cruising, you're in the area, and you see a little tchotchke.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I got to have something that I can bring back to say I went to somewhere.
And then it sat on a shelf where you had a plant in it for a few years.
Yeah.
And then you donated it to thrift shops. That's what it looks like. It doesn't look like this super ancient Mayan artifact.
Well, how old is that?
Gosh, 2,000 years old?
It's old enough, man.
Yeah. So, but $3.99 just gets me. So,
$3.99.
yeah. And,
So this person found it.
yeah.
Amy Lee Dozier basically found this artifact that she bought. Mm-hmm. This is in Maryland. She initially dismissed it as a run-of-the-mill, slightly older tourist trinket, and then she brought it home. But fate had grander plans. During a work trip to Mexico, Anna visited the Museum of Anthropology and noticed a striking resemblance between her vase, right? Yeah. Since you have to call it a vase now, since it's worth way more than $3.99. And the other artifacts that were on display. Turns out her humble purchase was no ordinary decor. It was confirmed to be a Mayan vase, possibly 2,000 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So the object's historical significance left her in awe, but also a tad nervous. She has 3 young sons at home and didn't want to be the one responsible for any mishaps after 2 millennia.
Oh.
So in a heartfelt ceremony, she returned the vase to the Mexican ambassador, Esteban, looks like
Montezuma Bargan.
Oh, okay.
So.
Fancy. And it's now destined for a Mexican museum. Quite the remarkable journey for an item that began as an unusual thrift store purchase.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. But you know what I would say?
What?
I would like to return this personally. And I want you to pay for my flight. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure the guy had credentials and all that stuff, but still, it's like, hey, man, why don't you hook me up and give me a trip out there? Because it could be something like this is priceless.
Yeah.
Obviously, way more than $3.99. It could be worth $10s, $20s, $100,000, millions. Who knows, right? So, hey, why don't you hook me up, give me a flight? It's a fair trade, right?
Oh, she did go to Mexico.
What?
Yeah.
They let her go?
Yeah.
Did they pay for it, or did she just
in
have
an
to do it
official
alone?
ceremony at the
Nice.
Cultural Institute of Mexico,
Is this an update?
No, this is at the last end half of the video.
Oh, cool.
It now joins other artifacts that may have been dropped off anonymously or intentionally. And there's this table, and it's got all sorts of stuff, including that creepy Mayan doll that's in, like, spooky movies.
Yeah.
And some other pieces of pottery. Where's that? Where is the... like, some weird stuff. Looks
I've
like
got that Mayan death calendar clock that's at least coming up on 35 years old now.
several bowls, a few masks, and then some just long cylindrical pieces of pottery.
Nice.
That's kind of cool.
I have a Mexican blanket
Yeah.
that I've had for 35 plus years.
And you can tell some of these, though, like if they were at a thrift shop, people probably thought like two of these look like plant stands, like the thing to lift the plant off the ground.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but it's...
like a planter stand.
Yeah, but I think they had different purposes back then. Couple of things, though. It would be really difficult to figure out that they weren't tchotchkes, you know?
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
yeah.
It could be there to, maybe hold sacrificial hearts
Or
or chocolate. Chocolate hearts.
maybe.
So,
But that was pretty cool.
yep, that's pretty neat. At least you got a plane ride out there and got a chance to see some stuff. Probably got some tours from the, cultural centers directors or whatever. That may be kind of cool because, they know all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be like, oh, that's great. You show me the good stuff. I want to see stuff that's like nobody else knows.
Yeah.
Like in this box right here, we have little petrified aliens from Peru.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
They may look fake, but they're not.
speaking of flying places,
Yes.
I would like everybody to please avoid Diamond Shrooms brand chocolate bars. This is a new FDA release that just came out this week. The Food and Drug Administration has posted this thing saying, do not eat, sell, or serve any flavor of Diamond Shrooms brand chocolate bars, cones, and gummies. There's an FDA investigation that is ongoing. Basically, the Diamond Shrooms brand products, the microdosing chocolate bars, infused cones, the microdose and macrodose gummies are causing people to become very ill. It's a variety of severe symptoms that are including seizures, central nervous system depression, which means a loss of consciousness, confusion, and sleepiness. It's also causing agitation, abnormal heart rhythms and rates, hyper and hypotension, nausea, and vomiting.
So if you're unaware of this or have never heard of it before, this is the kind of stuff that you can find in like vape shops.
Yeah.
Retailers that sell like hemp-based products, stuff like CBD,
Boutiques and stuff
or
like
Delta
that.
8,
Yeah.
or Delta 8 THC. So if you're in places like that and you see shrooms, you probably don't want to try it. And they come in different flavors like birthday cake and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So stay away.
Yeah. Basically, everybody's being asked to discard their product. If they notice they're having symptoms, basically call your healthcare provider or call the poison helpline.
Yeah, call your poison helpline first.
Now, the reason this actually got sent to me by a friend who said that...
What?
You went like that.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't disclose anything about that.
Yeah, so...
Anyway, you were hip to the fact that this is a thing, and you checked out the FDA website, and there you go. And just in case you're wondering who might be interested in some of these products, because you're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like the song, right? These products may appeal to children and teenagers. Parents and caregivers should consider discussing the information in this advisory with their children and take extra care to avoid these products being consumed by younger people.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of younger people enjoy the edibles, and this can fall in that category for some products.
The original press release that I read that's available online did indicate that a lot of people have gotten sick in our region as well as in our state.
26 illnesses so far, and in North Carolina, there's at least one as of June 17th that that to be true, and also there are more.
Yeah.
25 people in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the state's list is 1 at the time. So 16 people have been hospitalized, and so far no deaths have been reported.
Yeah.
FDA has been in contact with the firm about a possible voluntary recall, but these discussions are still ongoing.
Yeah.
So the advisor will be updated. See, just the fact that they're still ongoing makes me personally, an adult, say, I will never buy that product.
Yeah.
If we were selling a product and the FDA said, people are getting sick, you should pull it, I would be like, immediately, I would pull it.
And see, part of this is
And they're like, well, it may not be us. No, don't hem and hawing, man. Take it off
so
shelf.
there's this huge conversation right now in North Carolina Senate and House about, again, decriminalizing or possibly seeking medical status for marijuana in the state of North Carolina.
They should.
The most recent piggyback puts restrictions on certain places like these Delta 8 cafes and CBD like stores or boutiques and stuff like that. And the reason is because these stores are not as regulated as other places.
Yeah, they're called head shops.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the modern day equivalent of a head shop.
When you go to one of these places, like in Tennessee, Tennessee has a lot of very popular destinations where these stores are like on major street corners or major like exits, and they sell anything from Delta 8 to Kratom or what, I don't know how you say it, to these shroom products, and there's no oversight.
Right. There's no oversight with some of the shroom products you just see listed that aren't sold at places like that. Like, hey, if you add this to your coffee, it has 35 different benefits, and you'll be able to do these million. Nobody regulates that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And
they should be.
That's why it's so concerning, because some of these head shops, when you get further and further out into the boonies, they might have some of these products on the shelf and not be aware of it.
Well, that, and you might find some of these in gas stations.
Yeah, that's the other.
So it was the same thing like with some of the gas station products, like, people were buying for like long road trips, contains, as much caffeine as 13 cups of coffee and all this other weird stuff. You got to watch that kind of junk.
Oh, that reminds me. I forgot to send it to you. There's another bill for North Carolina in vapes, like truck stop vapes specifically.
I think North Carolina needs to start really worrying about other things.
True.
So, whatever. I don't want, people just need to leave people alone. But if something's trying to kill you, then it should definitely be known.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it. But yeah. So remember a couple episodes that we talked about, I talked about quicksand and how it was like a childhood fear.
Yeah.
Where shows and stuff would show somebody getting trapped in quicksand and get to throw them a vine or whatever and pull them out. And you just looked at me like, whatever, man.
Well, because I've actually been stuck in quick mud out here.
Okay, that's not quicksand. We're talking quicksand.
Okay.
So evidently this woman in Maine got hung up in some quicksand at the beach while she was walking along,
Mm-hmm.
and then her husband had to like pull her out.
Okay.
And it became a thing along with a giant sinkhole type thing. So, the park rangers and stuff had to warn people about the giant sinkhole situation.
Oh,
so this woman actually, lived one of my childhood fears that Black Panthers would get you.
Mm-hmm.
Quicksand was a thing. You always had to watch out for that. There's all these, fears that you should watch out for because of cartoons and shows and stuff. And she actually experienced one.
Yeah.
Just walking on the beach. And where did we grow up next to?
A beach.
The beach.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that is pretty quick. She went 2.5 feet deep, which is basically up to her hips.
Yeah. If she was struggled.
Yeah.
You just working yourself deeper, man. But I just want to know how the guy pulled her out. He didn't have a vine. And in these shows, there's always a vine. Like even when Gilligan got stuck in quicksand, they had to grab a vine, throw him out. In one of the movies, was it Indiana Jones? They threw a snake to him, and he had to basically grab the snake as a rope, pull him out.
Oh, here it goes. Her husband, who, quote, pulled me out like you'd pick up a toddler off the floor, end quote.
What is it? You just grabbed her by the arms and whipped her out of there?
Just like...
Or did you just pick her up on her armpits? It's like, get on.
Like that.
Let's go.
Which, kudos, that dude must be kind of like pretty fit or something, because it's just, like that.
I don't know. He's probably just dad strong.
Yeah.
If that's a thing. But yeah, that was pretty crazy, right? There's a video if you want to watch it. Everything we talk about in the podcast is available to click on and watch at your leisure. If you'd like to do some research or whatever, if you go to CreepGeeks.com, you can find a link there. If you're watching the video on YouTube or listening to our podcast on YouTube, in the description will be a link as well. Also, there's a link in the in our show notes, it has, like, if you'd like to buy something off Amazon and use the link that we have, it hooks us up with a little percentage.
Yeah.
Doesn't cost you anything extra. So through the Amazon Associates program, which is basically is helpful to us because it's been wildly unsuccessful. So what are you looking at now? You're looking all serious about something.
Oh, no. I'm looking at the next article because I wish it included some more information.
It doesn't. It just barely includes anything at all. And so we've talked about this multiple times in different podcasts over the years because we have 312 episodes that are published for you to listen to. It talks about fortune telling, and in some places, fortune telling and tarot cards and things like that are illegal, and you can get fined for it. And the last time we talked about it was, I believe it was in North Carolina, where they opened up a new shop, this couple, and the police chief came by and just basically offhanded, sort of nonchalantly threatened them.
Yeah.
That if you caught them doing anything with this, God just come by and shut you down, just out of nowhere, right? And so and that's the problem I had was just, why would you do that? Talking to a brand new business, who's trying to open up and use their business, but also support the community, small business or whatever. And this sheriff comes cruising by, or police chief, I think it was police chief, came by and just offhandedly, threatened to shut them down.
Yeah.
Now in Virginia, where we're from, if you look at the Tidewater area, where you have Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Hampton, Newport News, Norfolk, Chesapeake, kind of some parts of Chesapeake. I'm forgetting.
Chesapeake and Suffolk are also continued.
Virginia Beach,
Pungo.
Yeah, Pungo. So let's just say Hampton Roads because we called it Hampton Roads, right? For a long time.
Was it the 7 boroughs or was it?
Somebody tried to make it into a thing, 7 sister cities or whatever, which is silly. But in all of those places, with the exception of maybe one, basically fortune telling and stuff like that's illegal. And a lot of that is because there's a large military presence there, and you can't prey on the military.
In addition,
it's okay to charge them 35% for an interest rate on a car loan, a shaky car loan, but you can't,
Yeah. Now, a lot of this does stem from a late 1940s, early 1950s movement to keep our military in the area upstanding citizens, and it started
tattoos
with a ban in June 1950 of tattoo parlors within the city of Norfolk. So in 1950. There was a lot of new restrictions placed within the city of Norfolk, and the military families, they moved outward to other areas. Unfortunately, since it was such a tight several boroughs, many of those city laws were adapted to city limits of the other areas in Virginia.
Yeah, because they really didn't care in World War II.
Yeah. And then I remember when I was a teenager and then a young adult, slowly some of these things were being repealed. Like suddenly in 2006, you could get a tattoo within the city limits of Norfolk. And then even before that, if you did want a tattoo, you had to drive to like the city limits of Virginia Beach or out to Suffolk or Chesapeake.
Yorktown.
On top of that,
some parts of Portsmouth.
You had to be 21 or older in a lot of these places to get a tattoo because I had to wait.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the way it was when I was living in Massachusetts. I went to Rhode Island.
Oh.
And got one there. Where they asked, "Are you old enough to get a tattoo?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I mean, this extended to all sorts of things from like we're talking about in this article, fortune telling, to tattoos, to certain types of gambling, even down to ridiculous stuff like ear piercing. I think that was the quickest one to get repealed.
Yeah.
But to have waited all the way until now for the city of Norfolk to repeal a 1978 ban on fortune telling, what caused it,
It's funny because as you left Norfolk and got into Virginia Beach, like 1 foot into Virginia Beach, there was like 2 or 3 places where you could get your fortunes. One of them I remember was palm reading and was Reverend Sister Bishop, something like that.
And there was like a neon sign in the front window, so it was a sign that you had clearly left Norfolk and left the city limits of Norfolk and had then entered Virginia Beach. The same thing could be said when you left certain parts of Norfolk to get into Portsmouth. So to have...
I'm sorry, that Reverend Sister Bishop was in Suffolk.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm choking on a peppermint.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, so it didn't take them long.
Yeah.
How many years? 30?
1979. So
30 years is 2009. Oh, almost 40 years.
Yeah, it's 44 years.
Good Lord of the dance.
Yes. So 44 years later, it is now legal to fortune tell. And there was a council member that made this super cheesy joke. I'm sure somebody out there predicted that this was going to pass. So
Yeah. I predict that guy's got flat tires.
yeah. So
There you go. So the way has been paved for palmist tarot readers and clairvoyants to ply their trade in Norfolk. And I'm sure they accept debit cards and stuff like that. So
unlike parts of Western North Carolina, where it is still illegal to do these types of divination for profit.
that's right. But they do take donations.
Yes. Which I can't believe it's still that case.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know we've talked about it 3 different times in 3 different places in the podcast, and one of them was in Morganton, North Carolina.
And one's where we live, and,
Yep. So, remember the mysterious monolith?
Yeah.
And we talked about it. One of them was in England, and you had like New Mexico, and there was just several. Arizona.
Wasn't the first one Utah or something?
Well, the first one, yeah. Utah, or the first one we noticed was in Utah.
Yeah.
Well, evidently one showed up in Vegas. Just outside of Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, it's now gone.
Already.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was there, and it's been removed, and it's just people think it's an art installation. I think it was during COVID when this got big, and people were like, "Whoa!" So evidently, a mysterious monolith that was recently discovered in a hiking trail near Las Vegas is gone. It was there, so if you didn't see it within the 3 days, I put this article in the podcast. You didn't get a chance.
Okay.
So that's not a whole lot to talk about there.
I mean, I want to know who. We did one little podcast thing about some group claiming credit to these things, but I really want to know the actual origin story.
Yeah, the Las Vegas Metro Search and Rescue Team. They are the ones that stumbled across it. This sizable, mysterious metallic object. Yeah, and basically they use the experience of running across the thing to start. Basically, they use they're like, we found this monolith, and by the way, here's some safe hiking tips.
Yeah,
which is kind of nice. So, but yeah, it's that flat monolith, man, where it's just stainless steel. Some of them are mirrored, some of them are not. So,
yeah.
The one in Utah, I think, was bolted to the ground, and that was where they really had a hard time with it. They didn't like the fact that it was actually bolted.
Yeah, because wasn't it?
So,
it was either Forest Service or BLM land.
I think it was Forest Service.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So nothing really said, is this one the same way? But it's along a hiking trail, so if I remember, they were about like 6 feet tall at least.
And then there was different versions that came up, including the fake one in Morganton that everybody took perspective pictures of.
Yeah, and make it look huge, and it was just really small.
When people showed up, it was in a flower pot.
Yeah.
It was in one of the downtown flower pots.
People were like, oh my God. They were mad about it. So I think
Yeah.
it's funny. It's like, well, it is. Kind of is what it is. So.
I kind of
All
want
right.
one.
What?
A monolith.
Well, I'm pretty sure you can buy one off Temu or maybe AliExpress or something.
That would be
Why don't you take 2 seconds and look that up for us right quick?
I'm using Google Shopping, and that's not turning out.
Yeah,
So I'll probably try Etsy. I'm sure those guys have one.
possibly. So, you've got the monolith, which is an art installation more than likely, because that's kind of what people were thinking. And you have other stuff like that, and graffiti can be art. I'm thinking of like Banksy, and I'm sure there's other. But I came across this video where it's oil protesters, and they're out there attacking Stonehenge, which I believe is a World Heritage Site. So it'd
Yes.
be almost like the equivalent of attacking an ancient pueblo that's been around for 1,100 years, running around throwing paint on it, this like powder paint. And I'm all about people expressing, protesting and all that, which you're right? Mm-hmm. But I'm also a little tired of it. I think when you get to the point where, like, what the hell did Stonehenge do to anybody?
Nothing. And it was...
I mean, what does it actually do? How is Stonehenge related to oil or anything? It's not. And these people, these oil protesters, they're doing things like blocking roadways and stuff like that. And yes, that's an inconvenience and people get mad, but this pissed me off.
So the reason I found this was because I have been kind of keeping an eye. These same people have also caused some damage to some other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's video of it, and we do have links, like I said. And this actually, the video we'll be seeing the video from is linked through Coast to Coast AM. And they ran, there's just like 3 or 4 of them. They run in there, and it looks like they have like fire extinguishers full of like powdery orange paint. And they run up to them, and they're just basically coating and blowing this orange paint all over some of this, like the one with the capstone and all that. And some people over, like this old guy and this old woman went out there, to get them to stop. But what purpose does that serve? And this lady has a lanyard. She looks important. So what does that serve? What's the point behind, I guess I don't understand, attacking like some of the comments, right? Cause you can get this, you can also see the video on X or Twitter.
Yeah.
Attacking a heritage site made zero fossil fuels to protest the use of fossil fuels. And do they realize they're the worst thing that's ever happened to environmentalism?
So
it's,
oh no. So that's why, okay. So what I was trying to say was they were doing this orange paint thing on, on airplanes as well.
Yeah.
Airplanes and jets. They also have vandalized things like they threw tomato soup over Van Gogh's sunflowers.
I'm sorry,
man.
Man.
That's what got them on my radar.
Well, don't say the name of them because I get, but they're trying to be these kind of like Greenpeace for a long time,
Yeah.
and PETA was the worst. Did I ever tell you about punching that PETA protester person in the face?
No.
Coming out of McDonald's?
No.
All right, so we came out of McDonald's. This was many decades ago, so I'm sure the statute of limitations of punching an asshole in the face has been well done.
Okay.
Right? And walked up to my, at the time, very young daughter with a Happy Meal bag.
Yeah.
Because you had bags and boxes for certain Happy Meals. And opened it up, and it was basically full of animal guts.
Okay.
And she recoiled back, and as soon as I seen this bloody mess in the bag, I punched that dude in the face. Like super quick, like a ninja. And he left his shoes. His little flip-floppies, they weren't Birkenstocks, they were like Birkenstocks. Yeah. So I basically knocked him out of his shoes and then took my daughter away. And you know what happened?
What?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Because anyway, it's just like...
So that type of dumbness is what got them on my radar when I found out they were the people behind certain attacks on famous art installations. And then earlier this week, I get like, it says breaking, and I was looking on X, and it's like protesters spray orange paint on Stonehenge. And I'm like, wait, what? And then I see that it's this powder paint. I see the 2 people trying to, pull these people away, get them to stop the damage. Later on, there is a claim that it is orange powder paint where the primary ingredient is cornstarch, and it should wash away, allegedly. But it's pointless. I mean, if your organization is out there to stop fossil fuels...
No, they're not. They're basically like PETA. They're there to bring attention to themselves.
Yeah. Well, let me...
All right, we'll finish.
So if your point is to stop fossil fuels, why are you going to use fossil fuels to get to a sacred location, damage that location, and now people have to come out using fossil fuels to arrest you? Volunteers have to go out to clean up the place, also using fossil fuels, plus all the toxic chemicals to clean or whatever. Then you have the fossil fuels to take you to jail, to take you to court, the fossil fuels used by the jury to convict you. That's pointless.
They don't care.
That's dumb.
They don't care. And the reason why they don't care is they want people to see what their organization is about and give money or whatever. But at the end of the day, they really do not care. They don't think this through. And most of these people that do these sort of protests that run out there and they want to do all this stuff are low intelligence, low thinkers. They don't care. To them, the ends justifies the means, and I'm really surprised.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not. Maybe I should do more research about this organization, but I wouldn't be surprised if people have actually been hurt because of what they've done.
They have. Because along with that attempted damage to Van Gogh's work, which luckily was behind glass, they've attempted to glue themselves to the Last Supper and to museum walls. I can't even. I mean...
I don't know how I would. Yes, I do. I do know how I would react if we were there, say, looking at that little tiny picture of Mona Lisa, which is not a big giant painting like everybody thinks it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd be less likely to be worried about it because it is under glass. They are protected because you can't just leave something out in the open in a museum.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it angers me, I guess.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, it's just such a, I don't want to say, it is to me it's childish. It's like you see somebody there throwing it.
And that's the thing, because like even CNN 2 years ago was like, are Just Stop Oil's dramatic art museum protests hurting their own cause? And overwhelmingly the answer and explanation is yes.
So what I would like to see, like in this particular instance of Stonehenge being attacked by these, looks like fire extinguishers full of paint.
Yeah.
I just wish somebody had some mace. It's like, you want to paint Stonehenge, let me paint you with some mace. But I think mace is illegal in the UK. Because there's a lot of things in the UK and places like that where you can't defend yourself, and you can't have anything that could be used in defense of yourself or that somebody can use to attack you.
Owning and using pepper spray is illegal and subject to strict laws to ensure safety and prevent misuse in the UK. So I typed mace and it came up with pepper spray.
You can't have knives that lock.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of rules and stuff. And it's amazing. You would think with all these safeguards put in place, no mace, no knives, no whatever, that there would be less crime. And they still have the same crime. I don't think they get basically locked up as long. I don't know.
You can't own a taser either.
Of course not.
Yeah.
You have to be attacked and let the police handle it.
What
You're not even supposed to fight back if you're being attacked. That's what they tell you.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, how is a painting or Stonehenge going to fight back? This is ridiculous. I mean, it's Stonehenge, and it was basically the day before the summer solstice.
Yeah.
Where, the sun lines up and looks super pretty.
They should put a sign that said this organization did this.
I mean, allegedly it's going to wash off in a few weeks. But
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah.
It's not. It's going to stain it. They should have somebody coming out there to what do you call it? Spray it with some stuff.
Yeah.
Find something. Because they say it's cornstarch and what? Dye?
Cornstarch and orange pigment.
All right. I mean, if you can eat chips out of a bag and get orange fingers,
Yeah.
stuff's got to be worse than that.
Our color powder is made from ingredients like cornstarch, baking soda, and plant-based dyes. All of these things you can find in your kitchen or backyard, not a lab. Our 1 pound bulk orange powder comes from food-grade ingredients. So,
Well, thanks for that.
yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, this organization's trash. I think you shouldn't be trying to trash Stonehenge. It's garbage.
I mean,
Maybe I'm just old, but I don't know. When they cross a line, they cross a line.
they do. I mean,
I think I'll protest when they cross a certain line. And I understand that people are like, well, they try to use the birth of the United States as like, well, I think people took it too far, destruction of property or whatever. And you're like, well, that's how America was created. Yeah, I guess so. You're not creating America. You know what I mean? You're a little bit different.
I mean, it's one thing to...
And people will say, well, it's taxes, right? Taxes is why America was created. No, we're talking, how long was the U.S., how long was America becoming a country before all this stuff happened? Let's look at 1630 and then 1776. That's 100 and something years of being fed up.
I mean, it is one thing to claim that you're trying to dismantle systems, But when your attempt is to dismantle fossil fuel systems and you actually increase fossil fuel usage incredibly through one dumb act, you're dumb. I don't have anything else to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, pick something better like Big Pharma.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Or the Chinese fentanyl that's causing issues.
Yeah.
Probably got our channel taken down. We talked all about COVID before it happened, and Chinese and the Wuhan and all that stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh no, you're crazy." And then they took some of our social media presences down because we were saying things like that. And here it is, 4 years later, and they're like, "Yeah, it was totally created in a lab. It wasn't freaking bats that did it."
And literally, Rolling Stone magazine.
There are labs in the Ukraine.
Has sections of their expose on COVID that are literally very close to word for word what we said.
Sure.
Yes, I get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything has been proven to be true. Everything at most 90% of what people said was, okay, it's just a weird number, but let's say 80% of what people said about COVID, the crazy stuff that nobody believed, was absolutely true.
The really crazy stuff.
Well, I mean, you got even ivermectin. No, don't do that. It's bad for you. Guess what? It's not. It's being prescribed. That stuff has been around for a long time. It has wonderful uses outside of like what you think COVID would be. So anyway, it's antifungal and antivirus stuff for critters. It's better than dynamite. Yeah, because Nobel created the Nobel Peace Prize because he created TNT. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's speak of some ghost activity.
Okay.
It's not a good segue, I know. Because I was thinking we should include a segment called Random Ghost Activity.
Okay.
And these are like just things that started to pop up because I couldn't find the third one when I was looking at things that I thought was interesting, and I bookmarked things and whatever. There was a couple. There was something that happened to an ambulance in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Which is not too crazy. And then, but ghosty experience being recorded at Alcatraz.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And there was a third one, which I could not find.
Do you remember what it was?
No.
Okay.
And that's what I get.
Okay.
So the one in Alcatraz I thought was pretty interesting because basically there's a team that's basically there to create a 3D map of Alcatraz, right? Mm-hmm. These people were not there to look for ghosts. They weren't there for any of that stuff. They're there to do a job. They're going to 3D map Alcatraz.
Yeah.
And they started having some experiences, and they said that they were having experiences. To me, that makes that sort of slightly maybe more credible than somebody who's there looking for ghosts and all of a sudden said that they found ghosts or had experiences. They're credible in that way. Sure, maybe they're skilled enough to know to look for, but these people weren't having it. They weren't looking for it. They're there to do a job.
Yeah.
And they're like, we had some weird stuff happen to us. Those are the best. That's like a construction crew saying, we can't work here anymore because everything is haunted. And they just leave.
Yeah.
They're throwing away money. They're not going to finish the job. And that's the stuff I think is really interesting because when you got like normal, regular people, they're like, nope, we're out.
Bye.
We're dipping because this is terrible and stuff is happening and we don't understand.
Wow. So this group, as part of the endeavor to 3D map Alcatraz, they spent 3 weeks on the Alcatraz island.
Yeah,
and at
so
night,
they were there.
Yeah. At night, they actually slept inside the prison rather than going to shore and, booking a hotel.
I mean, look, that
whatever.
makes sense because they have power there and
Yeah.
stuff. So why not camp out for a couple of weeks and get it done? I'm sure it saves them a ton of money too.
Yeah. So the unorthodox campout took a spooky turn that was brought about by one team member being a particularly loud snorer. At the behest of his colleagues, group leader Pete Kelsey recalled the man graciously agreed to sleep alone in a separate room where inmate mugshots were taken a long time ago. However, his unusual accommodations only lasted one terrifying night. According to Kelsey, the following morning he had noticed that the man was sleeping outside of the room, and when he later asked him why, the snorer shared a truly fantastic tale. The man recounted being roused from his sleep in the middle of the night by the sounds of multiple people seemingly moving furniture in the room above his. Chillingly, the unnerved witness said that he also heard a piano playing. The combination of creepy, unexplained sounds understandably unnerved the man, who promptly fled the room and subsequently refused to sleep in there again. Kelsey indicated the man was serious enough in his convictions that the rest of the team agreed to let him sleep alongside them despite his snoring.
Now let's just make an assumption these are construction worker types.
Okay.
Or let's just say, people that are working types. Not like office people. If you're snoring or whatever and you're going to make them lose sleep,
Yeah.
you're like, get out.
Yeah.
But if they're like, okay, man, cool, yeah, we'll put up with your snoring, that's something. It holds a little bit of water.
I mean, if they're doing a 3D map, and here's the other thing.
And that's just the one thing that he reported.
Yeah.
This is going to be a movie. It's a perfect premise, right? 3 weeks on Alcatraz for a job.
Yeah. So, considering they're creating a 3D map, I want to know the means by which they're going about that. Is this like a group of engineers using LiDAR or like some sort of like scanning technology?
It's just a group of nerds. We see them on TV doing this kind of stuff.
Having said that, what do ghost hunters like to use? They like to use things that are based off of LiDAR technology to capture ghosts.
Well, we have LiDAR.
Yeah, we do. On most higher end smartphones.
No, you can't say that.
So-
On okay. So the Apple series, which has facial recognition, also has the LiDAR feature. If you look at it like the Pro series, Pro Max series.
Yeah.
So I did an amazing rendering of a croc shoe and put it on the internet. What is this, guys?
But, I mean, what if, on top of being there to do a 3D map of Alcatraz and the spooky experience, they go back to go render all their imagery and all their scans and they find something spooky.
Like maybe a face
Yeah.
that looks like it could be a croc, but it's not. Like, what is that? Is that your
I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So there's also another video where workers at a Costa Rican hospital were mystified when the siren of an ambulance just activated on its own. And that's. I mean, do I think that's a ghost? I mean, no.
No.
It is an ambulance, and what does ambulance do? Ambulance brings people to the hospital typically in their worst
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
Or going to be the worst state. They don't normally just bring you in for a joyride, although some ambulances do, because you need ambulance to get you to the hospital, maybe an appointment or whatever. But, I mean, it would make sense for a conveyance like that to be, possibly having some sort of paranormal type experiences, because, I mean, a lot of people die in ambulances, all that sort of thing. But the idea that I remember what it is now. That third video was going to be the wheelchair. There was a wheelchair just doing its own thing. And they're like, this thing is haunted, because it looked like the wheelchair was pushing itself around, like somebody was in it, goofing around with the wheelchair. So it was going to be Alcatraz, which I thought was pretty cool because of the 3D rendering and stuff like that. They spent a couple of weeks there, so it seemed like it was a lot more interesting of a recounting than whatever. And then the ambulance acting weird, and then a wheelchair acting weird. Because it made sense for the ambulance and the wheelchair to go together because they're like-minded sort of things, right?
Yeah.
But I don't remember exactly where the article went.
Oh, it looks like something happened on TikTok 3 weeks ago. So
Well, it wasn't
maybe
TikTok
there.
where I seen it, but
Okay.
yeah. So I don't know about the siren and the ambulance siren, but I mean, you can have all sorts of electrical issues that can cause problems. But if it keeps getting checked out and they don't find anything wrong, that'd be something. So this is basically it happened at a Red Cross facility, and the video basically shows that you had staff at the site and they were startled by the ambulance sirens just going off.
Yeah.
And they ran out to the parking lot to deal with it. And the workers found nobody in it, and they couldn't figure out, what caused it. And so the staff decided to look at the security system, and they saw that seconds after here's where it gets interesting. Seconds after the siren went off, right? Mm-hmm. A peculiar shadow was captured leaving the scene as the workers exited the building. So when the workers were coming out to see what's going on, a shadow was basically seen leaving the ambulance.
Yeah.
And you could see it in the footage. So, and people think it's a mischievous ghost that wanted to give the workers a scare. But more skeptical observers have argued that the incident was probably a prank pulled off by some troublemaker. So, those pesky kids. Yeah. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay.
Yeah, the wheelchair one I couldn't find. It wasn't off TikTok. I just rarely will I use things off TikTok. They're always interesting and stuff, but yeah, come on. And TikTok's probably not necessarily the. I don't know. Don't get me wrong. TikTok has a lot of good stuff on there. All sorts of things you can do.
Yeah.
Like figure out how to make your own cherry 7-Up, since it seems to be unavailable in most places around the U.S. But
I don't
around
get
where we
that.
are anyway.
Yeah.
And it's because it's delicious, probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's about all I got to say, I guess, about that.
Okay.
I think I'm about done. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to take a second and wrap up the podcast. Do appreciate you taking time to listen. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know.
Yeah. And be sure to follow us on social or join our Facebook group. It's fairly active. We like to share memes, funny stuff, weird news. We also like to get show and topic suggestions in there. So go ahead and join up.
Yeah. All right, is that all you got?
Yep.
All right. So anyway, see you later. Take it easy. If you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, sure, go for it. We appreciate it. It's a good place to listen to the podcast while you're cutting the grass or doing something like that, especially if you like to use YouTube. We want to thank Good Pods for ranking us again and sending me an email to make me aware of that. That was pretty nice. But otherwise, see you later. Take it easy. Bicycle.
Bye.
Then see this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify. Get helpful audience building stats and all the support you need to sound your best. They can even do video. Bring your podcast to life and have your voice heard here, there, and everywhere with Libsyn. Again, see our show notes for our unique Libsyn promo code and get podcasting.